All right. Hi, everyone. Apologize for the super extra late to show up in the show, but this is Cyber Power of Tigray live. We have Danny Denver from Denver, Colorado, our Tigray activist, obviously. And then we have Captain Eritrea. And tonight, and for most of you, it's already morning. We'll be talking about Tigray genocide and what happened to the Eritrean refugees that were kept safely in Tigray up until the dictator of Ethiopia decided to launch war on civilian in Tigray and the civilians, Eritrean civilians that were in Tigray. We have a big protest coming up on April 17, which is 1 week from today. We also have another protest in Denver, Colorado. I'm going to let Denny cover that, of course, but most importantly, the atrocity that continues to happen back home in Tigray and the movement that are happening here in the diaspora. So we'll be discussing broadly the Eritrean and Tigray unity as well in Los Angeles, California. Is coming out on April 17. So I am going to jump into Denny, if you don't mind, just doing a quick introduction, and we'll switch to Captain Eritrea, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, and Captain Eritrea. It's good to see you here. I am Danny Denver, Daniel will do, my real name. I'm a community organizer as well as an activist now. You know, just happy to be here. We've had a lot of things that we've worked on in the last 5 months, but also prior to that. So just happy for this conversation.
Thank you, Danny. Appreciate you. And Captain Eritrea, of course.
Hey,
you served in the U.S. Military for 24 years.
Oh, sorry.
So you know about fighting, you know about war, you know about the ups and downs of fighting. And of course, you're not representing the United States right now. You're representing, like yourself, Captain Eritrea, to unite Eritreans and Tigray. So I will let you do the introduction and briefly talk about the LA upcoming protest.
Excellent. Greetings, everyone. How you guys doing, brothers and sisters, my Tigarus, my Eritreans? Loving my life with Danny Denver and Mikey over here. Yes, you guys already know Captain Eritrea. We do the freedom fighting justice seekers with my brothers here. We're here to represent both Eritreans and Tigarus and the unity and upkeep the peace for the future. We are doing a Salam Awi Selfie or a demonstration in Los Angeles on April 17th. So we're here to speak on that and give you guys a few details and whatnots and so on. But happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Danny, I know, like, you're out there. I don't need to describe you anymore. We know who you are, and it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about Dawit. It's about the atrocity of civilians that are caught in the process of one man's act in Ethiopia, the failures of Abiy Ahmed. You know, I've heard, like, just time and again that his actions was law and order. You as a Tigray, I'm starting with you because the majority of our focus is about Tigray, of course. Not to say that the Eritrean refugees don't matter, which is also why we want to bring the unity. But my question for you, Danny, is we're beyond explain ourselves the genocide atrocity of Tagaro. Rape and starvation is a means of weapon use. What more do we need to do or say for Ethiopians, particularly the Amhara, to wake up, and those communities who are close to you, not personally, but from community perspective in Denver, that held the protests last week or a few days ago, and are really speaking in support of genocide?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So we have to look at this in the different dimensions. There are different moving parts in this whole movement. So when you think about what took place in the beginning, the government of Ethiopia needed a selling point to sell this attack on the people of Tigray. This was a well-planned, premeditated war. This was, coordinated with Isaias Afwerki, the president of Eritrea. They worked together for more than 2 years to get on the point or position to attack. And one of the ways they did it, Abiy Ahmed did it, was by selling it as if this was a law enforcement operation. To do that, you'd have to make up some sort of scenario where you blame the regional government of Tigray as the aggressor, and you can get the rest of Ethiopia or Ethiopians who needed a reason, just a reason, any kind of reason, whether it is law enforcement. He could have made up anything and they would have gone behind it. So it's not a question of people looking for truth and justice. It's more like looking for reasons to actually be an aggressor. So we know for a fact that there was a killing of an Amhara ethnic groups in Walaga or Western Oromia a week prior to the start of the war. And the justification that came from that was that troops were pulled out. Federal troops were pulled out from there to head north. To head north and to head north for what? Like, why would you be heading north and abandoning a place that you were supposed to be protecting? So it shows you that there were early signs prior to November 4th, where the federal government was collecting information to move forward, or they were collecting all the troops to move north to attack Tigray. There are reports where they've sent commandos up north to Maqala and had some issues with the regional special forces at the time. There's just so many signs to show you that this war did not start on November 4th. This war started prior to that, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, for anyone that is looking for justice, anyone that is looking for peace and just having to exist as humans in the land that you call home, you don't need to prove it to those that are the aggressors. You don't need to prove it to those that are wanting to exterminate you out of this world. What you need to prove it to is to the world that actually looks at things and say, okay, what's happening here is wrong. What's taking place here is wrong. these videos that are surfacing of mass killings, the reports of mass rape, you know, like weaponizing rape and weaponizing like and mass killings. These are crimes against humanity. And so you're killing civilians to do this. That's one. Two, if me and you, the three of us here, say, hey, we would like independent investigators, UN-led independent investigators to come in and study what's taking place in Tigray so that we can understand what actually happened, no human being should have a problem with that. No human being should say, oh, you know what? No. Like, we don't need that. We have our own law enforcement. This is an internal conflict. This is whatever excuses that are being made. We should not be making those excuses. We just shouldn't, because you're asking for independent investigators. You're not asking for one-sided, biased investigators. You're asking for UN-led. Those are independent, outside. They have no stake in this, and yet there's a pushback in this. That shows you that they do not want the crimes that are being committed, the atrocities that are taking place in Tigray, to come out and show up. This is why it's all kept in the dark, and basically there is a free will for anyone that's in the military to act and do whatever they please within the Tigray region. That includes the Amhara militias and special forces who has invaded and are trying to annex Western Tigray to be part of Amhara. So everything in this picture just doesn't sit well, and it's the truth. It's just, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to know enough about military actions, or you don't have to know all of these jargons for you to see that what's happening should not be happening in the 21st century. And this is not up for a debate. This is not something that I am willing, or any of us, any human being, should be having a debate about whatever things that are being raised. Independent investigation must go into Tigray to investigate all the atrocities and all the people that have done evil. It don't matter who it is. It needs to be. Two, weaponizing starvation is a crime. So the Ethiopian government needs to allow unhindered humanitarian access to Tigray from every corner of Tigray, and it needs to be UN-led. It can't be where you're sending aid to Addis Ababa and Addis Ababa is like routing it to whatever they need it to go to. It just cannot work that way. We cannot trust the Ethiopian government, and we will not allow Ethiopian government to take accountability, or not accountability, but the responsibilities of dispersing humanitarian aid to the people of Tigray. And so, and then after this, there needs to be cessation of hostilities between all parties. Either come to talk and resolve your political differences on the table, or they need to vacate, and then they need to let the UN come in and have peacekeepers to patrol areas of civilians, and so that civilians are not being put in harm's way. And I think these are just the starting points, but I'll send it back to you, and we can touch more and explain more on what actually should take place.
And thank you, Danny. That's very well explained. We're going to come back for sure on that. I have a video from PBS NewsHour that was aired a couple days ago. I'm going to show that to you guys in a sec, but I want to give a chance to Captain Eritrea. Captain Eritrea, like, I know, as you know, we can call ourselves whatever, activists and whatnot, but the reality of it is we touch bases, we know what's happening. But I also know that you were criticized heavily, especially at the beginning, for standing up for justice. Not that you are siding from, with one side or not, or disowning your Eritrean origin. It was more you stood for humanity. You were, from what I heard you clearly, and a lot of Tagaru I spoke with and who followed you and continue to show much respect and appreciation to you. And first and foremost, for me as a fellow American, I want to say thank you for your service, for me to be able to speak to have my freedom in this country, to have our freedom in this country, to speak, under the First Amendment right. I can't even pronounce it correctly. Free speech. It didn't happen just because America made it happen just because. It's because people like yourself who sacrifice their lives, who's gotten 3 tours or so if not more, actually, over 20 years of dedication to serve America. 6. Thank you. I'm like trying to show, gosh. So بناتنا نادي تلمد تجرينيا خلت خمسة السمعوا نحنا بأهلنا خمسة زلخو بساتلايت بإثيوبيا على مرس لنا محالفه. Thank you ني military service هذا حزبي يقني لنا الكاب خبري أتلمد. So in the society that we're in this country, from sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I'm not trying to get you emotional here by all means, but I want to say thank you. Thank you for your service for me and my children and my grandchildren and those who appreciate the freedom in this country to go out to speak freely. And it's because people like you who dedicate their lives. But when they do it with ethics. They do it with dignity. And what we see in Tigray, Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki denied for 5 months that Eritrean troops were not involved. Ambassadors, diplomats, Ethiopian and Eritrean, were lying to the world every single day and harassing you and me and Danny and so many of us simply for speaking up. I'm describing this because I want you to jump in and talk about it. The fact that you've been threatened to be killed because you say, hey, I don't want my Tagara brothers and sisters to be killed. I mean, so now we know everything you've been saying, everything we've been saying is the truth. I remember at the beginning, there was times where you and I talking on the phone even like, is this real true happening? Is this real Eritrean troops actually like doing these evil things? Are they really in Tigray? Are Ethiopians maybe? I mean, there was a time Isaias was saying, oh no, these are the Tagaru wearing Eritrean uniform doing that. So after 5 months, we know for sure that the atrocity that's taking place, we can call them Higdef, but we have Eritrean troops. So it's very clear and distinguished. I want to make sure that my Tagaru brothers and sisters understand. Our stand is not against the Eritrean people. Our stand is against the Eritrean military who is committing crime against genocide against the atrocities created in Tigray doesn't need to happen. So I'm going to shut my mouth because I'm going to go on and we're going to lose track of our topic here. But I want you to express the things that you've been put through for the last 5 months and how what you've been doing and saying is actually 100% correct.
Yes, thank you. So before the war, when it started kicking off, a little bit of hostilities when the election thing came up, I already knew the Renaissance Dam. I explained all that. I caught a little flack for that. And then once the war kicked off and then you and I spoke and I kept saying, hey, there's a lot of a lot of false information, but I stuck with what I thought was true and how I perceived how the war was going to happen because of my experiences, but I also know what type of I should say tactics that are utilized. But unfortunately, the Eritrean and Ethiopian militaries, they don't utilize the Geneva Convention and Code of Conduct. They don't have ethical rules and guidelines and boundaries that govern them on what they can and cannot do. See, that's the issue. When you don't have a rule of law, well, and although now it's been falsified, can you guys hear me?
Yep, yeah, you're good.
I'm gonna turn it up a little. According to Eritrea, we don't have a rule of law. It's one man. That's it. He does everything. He's the judicial system, legislative system, executive, all that branch, all that. He doesn't. No one gets to make any decisions. They're just a bunch of zombies that follow him, and that's that, right? But the problem is, Ethiopia was technically headed towards a democratic nation in theory, right? Because the world saw it as a democratic nation for the 27 years or so after the Dergi War and all that stuff ended. Ethiopia was actually building to be something great. But now Ethiopia not only has, when I say Ethiopia, I'm talking about Abiy Ahmed and what he's doing, has surpassed Isaias Afwerki. And the only reason why I say that is Isaias Afwerki and his regime and the Higdef Sarat, it's a constant. We already knew what they were about before this war started. Everyone in the world knows that Isaias Afwerki is the North Korea of Africa, Mish. So with that being said, it's no surprise when he commits murder. It's no surprise when he imprisons people. It's no surprise when little kids are killed. But to see that happening in Ethiopia is a whole different ballgame. That's when you're like, wow, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I can't believe that a nation that's so democratic has turned into genocide. Not only will this destabilize the whole Ethiopia, Ethiopia cannot recover economically, not to mention, forget the Renaissance Dam, forget the geopolitical arena where the world has something to gain from the resources of Ethiopia and Eritrea and the Horn. Forget all that. We're now back to caveman era. Now we're back to probably in the world being the lowest form of humans because of what's happening there. We're beyond Hitler. You know what I mean? At least he would English Hitler and Tagaberneru be gas chamber komigori qatlom qatif qatlom neru. Is yom gin kamzi sarat kamzi hamar ina faletnina. Who in their right mind does this to women and children, right? I don't care if you're Eritrean, I don't care if you're Ethiopian. Wrong is wrong, right is right. So when I would voice my opinion, you would get a lot of Eritreans and to jump in there, and mostly Higdef, that would be like, prove it. You don't know if Eritreans are in there. Well, like I stated when this first started, and everybody was saying you didn't have any proof. There's no way TPLF is going to go to war with Abiy Ahmed one-on-one and then turn around and throw a rock back at Eritrea just to be taken on two armies. That's not logical. No military strategist will ever suggest that. There's no way Dawei's going to be fighting one guy and I'm going to turn around and punch the guy behind me so I could get hit both ways. That's just common sense. You don't have to be a political analyst. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a political major, nothing to know this. So that alone tells you what was brewing from the beginning. So when they hit the preemptive strike and TPLF went for the weapon stash and this, we already understood when they shot the rockets to Eritrea, there was a reason for that. That was a warning to let Isaias Afwerki know, quit trying to get involved. And no, but they covered that for what? To set the genocide up, to ensure Tigray will never recover, to ensure that if Tigray is removed, then there's nothing that can stop the Confederation. Everything that's happening at this moment has been planned, pre-planned, and executed to the T. And if for anyone that disputes this, all you have to do is go back to election season and write down what happened step by step. Eritrea moves in. Suddenly now we want a confederation. Suddenly now all of a sudden all the Eritrean troops are in Ethiopia. You know what I mean? It's just as plain as day. But the world sees this and it's sad that it took this long to react.
Fact. So I'm going to give you another couple seconds to just kind of comment on when you prove those who lined up with dictators and have been supporting dictators, but calling you traitors or liars and all these things. In fact, they're the one that have been lying and continue to lie. I mean, I guess Danny's probably going to tell me, Mike, that's not worth waste our time for. But if you want to just like say something about it, because I mean, I'm being straight up but I'm going to let you, Captain, just like respond for a couple sec. I'm going to let Danny jump in because I know he's going to say something in there. I like him to correct me. And I have that PBS that I want to show you guys and we can talk about it.
All right. So no, you're right. So I get called Agame, I get called Tigrayan, I get called every name in the book. I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna murder you, Agame, blah blah. But what kills people is my dad was a Jabha Jigna, and when I was born in Eritrea, I'm not one of the ones that was born in the United States. I was born in Eritrea and I came here on political asylum, right? So and then I'll say that with Tigrina, Eritrea Tawalide, Nabzi Harime Metse. So that burns people when I stand for humanity and truth. But here's the thing, right? There's something Eritreans face, and it's called false patriotism. That is the biggest issue Eritreans have. They feel to prove their Eritreanism, and I always say this, that they have to either have Isaias Afwerki or that new flag next to them. Dawit, I don't need a size 40, and I don't need a flag to tell me I'm Eritrean. You see the difference there? So they feel like if they side with Tigray, you don't even have to side with Tigray. If you just side with humanity, I don't even have to like Tigray. If I just say, hey, that's wrong, why am I the enemy? I'm just saying, all you people go to church, right? All you people pray to God, right? And you say it's wrong. So, oh, we love you, Lord. Pray for us, peace, love, and happiness. But then you're out there holding Salamoy selfies for children and women to get killed. Hypocrites. You're not Eritrean. You're a false patriot.
Yeah,
Sure,
no, Captain, you're right, because um, the way you identify your identity, self, is that one, you look out for the best interest of yourself, your people, your surrounding, your family, your village, your town, your state, and then your country. That's how it is.
Right.
So, you know, oftentimes when we see these protests where you see Eritreans and some Higdef supporters, they're all Higdef supporters. There's no question about that. It's just it is what it is. Higdef supporters and Derg 2.0s coming together. First of all, there's something to be said here. There's something to be said here, because I have never in my entire life have ever thought that I would see Eritreans who hold the flag dear and those that hold the Derg flag on the other side to come together and stand together and say we're working together. Because historically that does not work, because that flag represented revolution, liberation for the Eritrean people. And on the other side, it's the Derg regime that wanted to wipe out Eritrea from 1975 to 1991. So how is it that these two people are coming together to actually talk about, having to work together? Like, how does that even make sense?
short memory.
It doesn't.
Right.
It's not. It just doesn't work. Okay, you can't have the green, yellow, and red flag by itself, the Derg flag, and the Eritrean flag being waved in the same length, it's in the same place as a union of two things coming together to do anything. That's just it's just not it, right? So that's one thing. So the quickest thing you understand from the demonstrations, things that you see, people coming in, things that they're being prideful and they're enjoying who they are, is that it's false. It's all false. It's not real. What you're doing is you're using Eritrea as a cop out method. You're using the flags to make it look like you're representing the Eritrean people. You're using all of that. And you're dancing with Derg. What Derg wants, and what's the Derg 2.0? That's what we have right now, is a Derg 2.0. It literally is Derg 2.0, because the military personnel are all POWs, honestly speaking. The military personnel, starting from the chief of the armed forces, the main person, Brahanu, what's his name? Gula, or yeah, Jula. Yeah, that guy, the main person, he was a POW. He was a Derg fighter who got captured, who became a POW, and then he was rehabilitated and brought back in. And guess what? He's not even fit to be a general, let alone a general like that would command the forces, because he was only put in place to meet a quota for the Oromo people. Okay, so if we understand historically what is actually taking place here and what these people are doing, this is theater. This is drama. This is I wish this was a movie and not a real life situation that people are being killed for. But when you see the protesters, the individuals that are coming out saying, I support my country, I'm this, that, and the other, you sit back and think about it and say, look, first of all, in the world, the first people that acknowledged the sovereignty of Eritrea, acknowledged that it is a country that has voted to be its own country, were Meles Zenawi and his clique, which is the TPLF crew, who said, hey, Eritrea has decided, they fought for 30 years to be independent. And their independence needs to be honored because with the referendum, they have actually elected to be what they are. Okay? And the UN has recognized them in 1993 to be an independent nation, and it's a sovereign nation. A sovereign nation like Eritrea has nothing to do with the internal conflicts or anything that happens within Ethiopia. Right? That's one thing.
And now we remember there in 1993 and thereafter, Amhara was blaming us, Tagaru, saying we let Eritrea go away, and had not been for Tigray, Eritrea will never become independent. So they were blaming us that we sold Eritrea, when in fact we just say to Eritreans, hey, you vote, and they voted for independence. I just want to, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to point that out.
Yeah, no, that's true. And the thing is, it was left to the Eritrean people, as it should have been, to decide what they wanted to do. Because Ethiopia has not been, the whole makeup of Ethiopia is not real. Ethiopia is a phony country, by the way. It's a phony makeup of a country. It doesn't have an identity. It doesn't have anything that is tangible to call it one nation. Because, listen, if you're a Somali person, the Somali region person in Ethiopia, your brothers are in Somalia and Somaliland. They're not in Ethiopia. If you're a Tigrinya speaker person, you identify more with the Tigrinya speakers of Eritrea than you identify with anybody else within Ethiopia. Because you share a common thing. Everything that is being manufactured right now is the doing of Atse Minilik. Atse Minilik is the person who engineered the geopolitical issues that we see today in Ethiopia. And that includes Eritrea, that includes Somalia, because they aren't all now included into this equation. So when you see people who support dictators, they support dictators. They don't support their identity. They don't support themselves. They don't support their people. They support dictators because they don't see themselves relevant without these dictators being in power. Okay? We know it for years and years and years. These people have been doing the same thing, coming in on saying fake news. This is wrong. This is a lie. That's all they do. They never show you, like, I care for the people. People are suffering. The people are suffering. Listen, Lampadula or other scenarios that happened where Eritreans were being killed on the journey to get to Israel, to Libya, to get to Italy, and to Europe, and come to America for many, many years, right? Whereas in the government that they support has shut down the one university that existed with Ethiopia. Ethiopia, during the dark time, there was one university in Eritrea. When Higdef came in after 2001, there's not a single one university for Eritreans to go to get higher education. It's safe to say that Tigray has graduated more Eritreans than Eritrea has in the last 20 years.
By the way,
who's the real enemy here?
Forgive me, but that's a sad reality. But I had no idea there was only one university in Eritrea until recently.
But the thing is, there's only one university, but at least you can sustain a population of, at that time it was like 3, maybe 4 million people. You can sustain a population with one university at that time. Let's just say that. How do you shut down the one university that you have for your population and then turn around and say, we're going to send you to Sawa so you can get training, because Sawa is much better than going to a university, so that now you can't even become a skilled, a critical thinker person. Brainwash the whole population to think that Ethiopia, especially Tagarus, are your enemies for 30 years. How does that help your population to level up to the point where you actually are advancing the interest of the Eritrean people? And the Eritrean supporters, Higdef supporters, should understand that this is not really the logic that you should be standing by. This just cannot be a logic. Accountability comes from your government. It doesn't come from outside entities. It comes from your respected government. But they will never test their own government to do this. They will have to toss the blame outside of what's happening in Eritrea. Now let's come to the Ethiopian government or Ethiopian society. The Ethiopian society have two conflicting things. One wants to be a unitarian system, and one wants to be a multinational federalism. Okay? These are the two conflicting reasons. Now, the unitarian system is Derg. It's literally an extension of Derg, or the kiss of Derg, or the Derg in itself. That's what it is. And the multinational federalism are those folks who value being able to say, I would like to elect the leaders that I have in my state, and the leaders of my state are going to dictate what happens here. Nobody else. Okay? So in doing so, you see that the main pushback that you get in Ethiopia is the folks that are the Amhara elites. I would not even call it the Amharas. I would say the Amhara elites are the ones that are pushing for this Unitarian system, where they want one Ethiopia, one language, one religion, one food, one dance system, all of that. They just want it to be their culture, their identity to be spanned out towards everybody else, and everybody else is supposed to say, you know what? I don't care about my language. I want to go to school with your own language, and all of us have one thing to talk about and how to conduct ourselves, and that's not going to work. In Ethiopia, there are over 80 ethnic groups. All ethnic groups are equal. All of them are equal. No one ethnic group is better than the other. So what needs to happen is that you respect the ethnic groups to have their own way of living, their own way of customs, and let them succeed that way. If you don't allow them to succeed that way, they will rebel against the federal government, and they will succeed. And they have a constitutional right to do so. Article 39 of the Constitution of Ethiopia right now grants any ethnic group to say, you know what? I do not want to be associated with this nation called Ethiopia, and we want to be our own nation, and they can do that. So that's one thing that these Unitarian system folks don't understand. Like, every single ethnic group has the right to succeed. Say, you know what? I do not want to be associated with you. You don't mean anything to me. I'm out, and they can leave.
So David,
I just want to leave it there because I know you have a lot to cover, but it's important to understand the dynamics of the Eritrean society and the Ethiopian society, just so that we have a perspective that can help us move forward in how we handle situations.
Thank you, Danny. So, Captain, I want, just what you just say, you were ኤርትራ ተወሊድካ ኣብ ስደት ኢኻ ዓቢኻ መብዛሕትና ከምኡ ኢና ኤርትራዊ ኮይና ተጋሩ ኮይና. So, and I've said this before, but I just want to hear it from you. How are Eritreans really feeling like victorious when they spent 30 years of fighting? So many of the young, Eritrean Jaganu who fought and bled and lost their limbs in the mountains of Eritrea to bring Eritrea independency for 30 years. And then Isaias hijacked that 30 years of fighting for independence, and what we see is another 30 years of atrocity. And most young Eritreans, like Danny described, have fled the country and have died in Libya and other places. So for you, from just being as, for Danny and I as Tagaru, we are beyond heartbroken. We are beyond angry. We are to the point where we're doing anything we can for America, Europe to take action. And you've seen our unity, Tagaru. That's one thing Ethiopia, if anything, did for us, for Tagaru, is it put us like on our toes, and we are united. Yes, we have, differences, but we are able to solve them. Why is the Eritrean diaspora at a larger perspective not able to see this? Those who see it, I know that I speak to many of them, of course, that there's many reasons why they also don't speak out. They have families back at home, Tagara as well. But what does it take for Eritreans to stand up and say 60 years is enough, and what's happened in Tigray is enough, and what happened to the Eritreans in Tigray is enough, that we can't continue to go this route?
So, no, that's a great question. So most Eritreans, when I spoke of the false patriotism, they weren't really victims of that. They were just proud Eritreans, and everything came to a change when Abiy Ahmed came into power. When that's when you saw when they did their little ceremony with the ring and all that crazy stuff. That's when you saw a lot of Eritreans, Hegdafawis, actually jump ship and becomes Ta'amtis, opposition justice seekers. They all jump ship. Some of them maintain their course because they figured he'll either be gone or, I don't want to betray my country. But what does it mean to betray your country? When he told Abiy Ahmed, you're going to lead us, that day everybody should have got lit. That day everybody should have got burnt because every Higdafawi that day just got roasted. They were lit up in flames because they just all got betrayed. How do you fight the Dergi? Beat the Dergi, liberate yourself, and then go tell the Ethiopian prime minister you're going to lead us. There's no bigger betrayal for an Eritrean. You just spit on all our martyrs, right? That day should have been when everybody should have got mad. This wasn't about Tigray. This was about a prime minister of Ethiopia being told by the unelected leader of Eritrea, you're going to lead us from here on out. I mean, at that point, I knew what was going on. I was like, all right, we're done. We're sold. You know what I mean? At that point, everybody should have been awoke. Now, everything that's transpiring now, it shouldn't be anything new. But the problem is Eritreans see what Tagarus are doing. Believe me, we all see it. You know what I mean? Even though I support it 100%, those who choose not to support it, they see it. How can you not see it? The whole world sees it. You know what I mean? There's millions of cars going down the freeway with red and yellow. You can't, and a star in the middle, right? There's no way. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's the beauty of it. And but I'm smart. The way I move, I'm like, wait, Tagaros were making a lot of noise, right? Even though I started doing my lives and all that, why don't I just stick with the people that have power? This is for all you Higdafawis that are watching. Tagaros are making a lot of noise, and the world's got their eyesights on you, right? We keep piggyback off of that and make our voice heard and be like, hey, look at us. We're over here too. We have a dictator and we have no freedom. Why not utilize that to your advantage, right? If you don't have to like Tagaros to use that to your advantage, just use your brain. If I get my Eritrean bandera and I go to a Salamoy selfie with you, everybody there is Tigray, right? There's one blue flag or the Higda flag or whatever that flag, the new or the Eritrean flag, right? And we're waving that. I am the only one standing there with that flag. Everybody's going to know I'm the odd one out, right? That brings attention to me. When you ask me, what are you doing here? I'm speaking up for my country. What's wrong with your country? You're not Tigray. You're not facing genocide. Well, yes, I've been facing genocide for 60 years. My people were just too weak to say anything about it. My people were too weak to speak up about why they're underground in containers to Asirom. My people were too weak to talk about our Jaganus that are murdered. My people are too weak to say they're starving. So I'm not weak. I'm going to speak about it. And I'm going to use my Tagaru brothers and sisters to help me the same way I help them. You know what I mean? That way, I'm paying my insurance forward. Later on, Tagarus won't feel some type of way against all Eritreans because not all Eritreans are the same. They're going to be like, hey, I remember that guy, Captain Eritrea. Good dude. Nope, spare him. You know what I mean? Spare them. Or if the tables turn, hey, I remember Danny Denver. I remember Mikey. Good dude. You see what I'm saying? Then our children don't have to pay in blood for all this nonsense because of two people. You know, we're all suffering because of two people. I mean, at the end of the day, they could try to blame Debretsion and all that, right? But how did he cause this? That's the thing, the logic I'm trying to understand behind this. Right now, there's only two forces. You cannot play the TPLF card for the rest of your life, brothers. That's the problem I have. Every Eritrean that is against Tigrayans utilizes the TPLF card. Are we going to utilize the TPLF card for the next 30 years? I was raised in America. TPLF's done nothing to me. I don't even know TPLF. You know what I mean? I just know my Tigrayan brothers and sisters I grew up with here in America. I didn't know the difference in, you know what I mean? So for me, utilizing TPLF while you're living in a different country, you're also a hypocrite. Think about that. You're blaming TPLF for doing something to your countrymen, but you're raised or born outside of Africa. What do you know? Do you even know why Bottomist started? Do you know your history? Do you know, does everybody know before Bottomist started, excuse me, that the rule of law in Eritrea, the constitution, the G15 brought forth a constitution, and they said, review this. We like to, get the rule of law or constitution going. He said no. Why? And then he jailed them, right? Remember, he jailed them all for treason, right? Okay, so you're gonna jail all your leaders for treason because they asked you for a rule of law when you agreed to the rule of law. But how do you distract from the rule of law? You start a war. You say we're gonna fight. You know how big Bottom is? Bottom wasn't big enough for hundreds of thousands of people to die. It wasn't big enough of land. It was just an excuse for him to not step down. And Mela Zenawi's not going to step back. Not when he's in his country. If he's going to get attacked, he's going to defend his sovereignty, right? So you got to think about that. Only one biggest mistake TPLF made during that era, they didn't finish the job. They went into Eritrea, they didn't finish the job. Had they finished that job, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, they didn't. Now, they try to spare him. And I know, I think Clinton and someone called back then was like, hey, get out of Eritrea, whatever. They try to spare the Eritrean people's dignity and stuff when they could have went all the way in and took him out. And that's the only thing in history that I wish was corrected. Now, as far as the Eritreans that live in the diaspora that claim that we're winning, we're not winning, brothers and sisters. How are we winning? How are we winning? We're being sold to the Derg. My country is not being sold to Tigray. My country is being sold to the imperialistic ideology we fought. The Haile Selassie, Mengistu Haile Mariam, in the imperialistic ideology that all my ancestors and fathers fought for, my dad, that we freed ourselves for, or we freed ourselves from, is going right back. And this time, the Derg, you don't even have to come take it. We're doing this. Here, take it. That's simple. And it's not the people of Eritrea that get to make that decision. It's one man. So no, you're not winning. The best thing you could do is pray Tigray don't fall. Because if Tigray falls, Eritrea is sold. Guarantee that. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. The only thing in the way of Abiy Ahmed taking over Eritrea is Tigray. You can call it TPLF, you can call it what you want. As long as Tigray continues to fight, they're technically fighting for you to not be sold. Think about that.
Powerful. I don't have anything to say. I'm going to show you guys a video, but Danny, so they brought in by the hundreds. They brought in the tanks. They brought in the planes. They brought in the helicopters. On the battlefield, I should have asked this to Dawit, but I'm going to ask you because you know what's happening. They're not winning on the battlefield when it comes fighting. TDF is like destroying them. And on the clip that I'm going to show, PBS News Hour shows some of the tanks that we've seen over and over that has been destroyed by TDF. For the matter of fact, a few weeks back, there were Ethiopian troops guarding a bank in Shire. One of the soldiers accidentally discharged his AK-47, and they thought TDF showed up. They all dropped their AK-47. They say, "Ijachin setanan." So they basically all just say, we're giving up. Literally one bullet fire. And the point is, and I have jokingly said here, Eritrean soldiers have been starved to death by their own government when they come to Tigray and have died on the streets of Tigray fighting for what? For nothing. And I've said in a kind of jokingly way, but it's the truth. The starvation is not a joke. But I said the Amhara who complained that like Ethiopia has been in the dark for 27 years, eating so much food, they look like pregnant, the twin pregnancy. And when they're fighting and dying on the street, the hyenas even pick and choose to eat the fatty ones from Amhara over the Eritreans. But I know that's not funny. What is how is TDF able to sustain 5 months and now they're actually on the offense, not on the defense anymore? But the amount of military that has showed up to Tigray, it's beyond imaginable. But the number didn't matter.
Well, let's get a few things just to have a baseline to talk about this. So you've had the Ethiopian troops, the Amhara militias, and Amhara special forces, as well as the Eritrean troops, and on top of that, the UAE drones that were participating in basically wiping out Tigray. That was the idea here. Okay, now imagine, Tigray is between 6 and 8% of the population in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian troops should have been enough to handle Tigray, if that's what it was. Or the Ethiopian troops and the Amhara militias and special forces should have been enough to do the job. And just the troops on the ground should have been enough to handle the situation and not use the UAE drones. But they used all of that, and yet they still didn't succeed. And let me tell you why. Because in war, it's not about the numbers. It's not about the military equipment that you have. It's not about what, technology you possess. It's about what you're fighting for. If you're fighting for survival, if you're fighting for yourself, if you're fighting for your existence, you fight harder and better and more resilient compared to someone that's coming in as an aggressor and coming in to invade and commit atrocities. The other thing, when all these invading forces are committing crimes, what they're doing is they're telling the youth within Tigray that you're better off fighting for yourself than die as a cattle. So what happened is most of these youth, they see what they see on the streets by all of these invading forces, and they'll go out and say, you know what, I'm signing up. Let me go fight for my country, because that is a greater honor to die for than to die as a sheep in front of your parents' house or in front of your parents, or like watching your sister being raped, or you seeing your mom being raped, or you seeing your neighbor being raped, like you're seeing your assets being looted by forces because you decided, hey man, this is not really what I want to do. I'm not a military person. But there's nothing greater. There's nothing in the world more greater than dying for something that you believe in. Nothing. And Captain, you can attest to this because you signed up and enlisted. I respect and honor the fact that you served, and I salute you for doing so. And any person that serves willingly is doing so because they believe in something greater than themselves. Okay, that's just the honor that you take in doing so. And so when you see TDF succeeding in these wars, in these battles, in the different areas and things happening, that's not magic. They're not any different human wise. They're all humans. But one is fighting for a purpose, the other one is fighting for no purpose. They don't even understand why they're there. Most of these troops that are coming from the Ethiopia side, they don't even know why they're there. And we've heard of news, we've heard of a report. Even Getachew Radda has said, he said, we will have POWs who are more concerned about their lost phones than they are the fact that they are POWs. They don't even understand what's really taking place. And we just heard the 16-year-old young Eritrean soldier who was just captured, and it was an interview where he spoke about, I don't know, احنا زنبرنا ናይ ባድመ እዩ ናይ ባድመ ነገር ከምኡ ነጊሮም ነይሮም ግን ንሕና ንምንታይ ናብ ውሽጢ ትግራይ ምትሃውና ኣይፈልጥን. This kid, he's a 16-year-old kid who has never been paid, has not received any income for why he is in this war, yet he is deep in Tigray, and he's like, أنا ናይ ውግእ ሰብ ይኮንኩን ተገፊፈ ዝተወሰድኩ እየ ተገፊፈ ዝተወሰድኩ ሰብ እየ. you know, the atrocities are happening to the people of Tigray, the civilians, the moms and dads in every city, village across the state. Good. Also, there's another atrocity taking place with the Eritrean population. 16-year-old kid should not be in the military fighting for something that is not even about his country. He's not even fighting for his country. He's dying in places he's never ever thought about. السؤال عن السوء 10 كفلي ኣብ ትምህርቲ ተማሂሩ ክመሃር ዝግባእ ሰብ እዩ 10 ክፍሊ 11 ካብ 10 ተኽልተ ወዲና ዩኒቨርሲቲ ክኸድ ዝግባእ ሰብ እዩ ግን ክላሽን ሂቦም ናይ 2-3 ወርሒ ትሬኒንግ ሂቦም ኣምፂኦም ከም እንታይ ሽሙ በቃ ከም ዝቕተል እዮም ገብርዎ ዘለዉ It's the saddest thing to see. And these people are playing with people's lives. They're playing with people's lives. ካብኡ ንመን እዩ ነቶም ኣብ ላዕሊ ዘለዉ ሰባት ክትሕጉሶም ናይ ሰብ ደም ናመጠጡ ዝነብሩ ሰባት What kind of life is this? Eritreans are being fooled. Stop it. Stop supporting this. Stop supporting this. This is not something you should be supporting. كلهم يموتوا يوم زلوا. كلهم ترديهم. Now they have credible information that the Eritrean troops are in Oromia. They're doing the dirty work of Abiy Ahmed because Isaias needs to keep Abiy Ahmed going. Why? Why? Nimintai. The same thing. TDF is going to fight. Remove all of these evil. Oromia OLA is fighting. They're getting close to Addis Ababa. So what? Now he's going to be like Mengistu. Get on a plane, go somewhere else to his Arab countries, and he's going to live a good life. Guess what though? The rest of the families in the rest of the country, in Oromia, in southern people, nation and nationalities, in Amhara, are going to get these bad news that their family members are dead. They don't even know where they were buried, or they don't even know where they died. For what cause? What cause? There's no cause to why they died. So at the end of the day, we have a whole bunch of dead people that have been murdering, raping, and looting Tigray, and they're going to be dead too, and everybody loses. Guess who else? Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki finds a way to bounce out of the country and go somewhere else and live the rest of their existence in a place, in a villa or whatever. People need to wake up. Wake up. This here is not going to serve you. You are doing something that does not serve the people. As long as you're doing something that does not serve the people, you are against the people.
Captain, I'm going to show you guys a clip, but before I do that, you know that it is against the United Nations for minors to fight war. And Eritrea announced that if Eritrean soldiers are causing atrocity in Tigray, they will hold them accountable. Should we be surprised of the lies? And shouldn't that be puzzling the United Nations when minors are forced to go fight for a fight they don't even know why they're fighting?
Well, the situation with that is Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki are trying to kill two birds with one stone. And the way they're playing that game is they figure, and you know, people get touchy about this subject when I bring up this, when I expose this. They call me Agazian, and I'm not Agazian. I respect Muslims, I respect everyone. But when I'm speaking about Tigrina speakers, I'm just talking about the people. Obviously, in Tigray, the Tigrina, they, you know, majority speak Tigrina, right? That's a fact. That doesn't make me Agazian. I'm just explaining that. But again, the only wall and brick that stands before these two is Tigray. And Tigray has always been a problem for every dictator. Every dictator that, and I say dictator, Mengistu Haile Mariam, Haile Selassie, even Abiy Ahmed. Just think about that. Haile Selassie, the Tonkali, right? His issue was the Tigrina speakers. No matter what he did, he cannot get them out of his hair. Mengistu Haile Mariam hated Tigrina speakers. And I know Mike and them told me about, I got people, friends, the Tigrayans that told me about Wayane, you know, the difference between that, as they're getting attacked. You know, I understand. But again, The Tigrina speaker was the one Mengistu despised. And now you got Abiy Ahmed working with imperialistic ideologies with the elites, Amhara elites, to remove the Tigrina speakers. And people say, no, no, it's the port, it's the port, it's the trade, it's the water. They want the port. No. Yes, of course they want the port. Of course, Amhara elites are mad that, the port was given to Eritrea to control. Of course, I understand all this. But again, if you eliminate Tigrina speakers in Tigrina or people that are in Tigray, then you can have full access into Eritrea and you can do a simple confederation with no one in your way. That is their biggest dream right there. And to achieve that, you have to frame and blame Eritreans. And the way to do that, you have to deplete the Eritrean army. That's the first step. Because if the Eritrean army wakes up and one of their generals decides, because now all the generals are relieved, right? Now that there's a confederation, all the generals are relieved. They've been like, hey, you're retired, go away. Now Ethiopian generals are going to run this, right? Well, if you think about this, the reason why they relieve all the Eritrean older generals is because some of them are still patriotic for the ideology of Eritrea. Eritrea being a free, sovereign nation that only belongs to itself, not Ethiopia, no confederation. So they can have the older Eritrean generals trying to unite the people. They may, get in the ears of the younger soldiers, and they might uprise and cause the issue. So remove them, get all soldiers from Eritrea, send them to Oromia, send them to fight Tigray or TPLF or TDF, right? Send them to fight. And then you eliminate the entire Eritrean force. Now that all the Eritrean soldiers are gone, there's only youngins left. There's kids, 15, 16-year-old that have no clue what they're doing. They're like, why am I even part of this? I don't even support this. But the issue is, once they're gone, who else is left to protect Eritrea? Who? The older grandparents, the babies? Who? Nobody's there to protect Eritrea. So when you go to sell Eritrea to Ethiopia, like he's doing with the Confederation, then it's easy. It's easy. There's no one there to defend it. You could simply walk in there with one pistol, take the whole country. That's the whole ideology behind this. And you know what? Besides what he told Abiy Ahmed, blame me for all the atrocities. I don't care. Blame me for rape, murder, Mu'ammat, Misraq, Manka, whatever you want to call it. You think Eritrean troops are going to steal Disti and Manka? Why would you steal Disti and Manka if you don't have no food to cook? This is all Tarikh Mutz'awat. They're just playing. They already thought about this. They were like, look, go do the worst things you guys could possibly do and bring in the Amhara militia. So they don't like Tigrayans anyways. So they were hitting them from both sides. Mish Kiro Amatsu, Kiri Shiroku, Kiro Hirodu, Kiro Kotolu, Kulugubaru. الدحريو ات نجر كفتح خلني نحزيت فتح خاني تيم اريتريان زار تيم تجرينا زاربو اب تجراي زلو مس اريتريا خصالو يم مستصالو خاني از نجر كفتح خلني دحرجي كم زي اجرنا انا نفرما از تحاسيبلو يم حجي ام باكشن يودو زلومبر. This is just a game to make us hate each other, and that's what you have to understand. But you have to deplete the Eritrean army at all costs. That way there's no uprising, and that make sure that the Abiy Ahmed's prosperity army, or whatever you want to call them, are the only ones standing. Because you know what's happening right now. As the Eritrean soldiers are fighting the TDF, what are the Amhara soldiers doing? Sitting there and watching. They're not getting involved until all the Eritrean troops are getting depleted. And that's not fair. But hey, my youngins are all dying, and that's why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking now.
And Ethiopia, by the way, is collapsing, and that's why Eritrean troops are fighting even in Oromia, because Isaias Afwerki is terrified. But I'm going to play this clip. I'm not going to show the whole video, but I'm going to just show a portion of it. I'll let you guys kind of hear what they've said, and we can just briefly talk about it. And then we're going to show some of the cool motorcycles about the LA protest. I got a few things. I know we are late and whatnot. I had promised Denny like we're going to try to keep it within 1 hour, but we are way over that already. Apologize. Great discussion so far. There we go.
at the brutal conflict in northern Ethiopia's Tigray region. Allegations of ethnic cleansing began last fall amid a military crackdown and threatened to engulf the surrounding region and permanently tarnish the reputation of the country's Nobel Prize winning prime minister. Thousands are dead. Tens of thousands have been displaced. The Ethiopian government is on the defensive, but it has also decided to slightly open the door to outside observers. Special correspondent Coletta Wanjohi is one of a handful of correspondents who's been allowed into Tigray and its capital, Mekele. This report is based on what she saw and what the government of Ethiopia wanted the outside world to see. And a caution to viewers, images and accounts in these reports may disturb some viewers.
Scars of war aren't hard to find in the heart of Mekele, the capital of Tigray. This is one of the schools here, converted into temporary shelter for the internally displaced. Kindafi Abaye, who is Tigrayan, walked for more than 4 days with her children to get here, hoping onto any truck willing to take them away. For 4 months now, this classroom, which they share with 5 other families, is what they have been forced to call home.
I fled here with 5 of my children. Others fled to Sudan. This is troubling me a lot. Since we arrived here, we have had so many problems.
People like Kindafi are trying to outrun a conflict spreading through Ethiopia's north. The region's powerful political party, representing the Tigrayan ethnic group, used to lead the Ethiopian government, but they clashed with current Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The Tigray party retrenched in their home region, defying Abiy by holding regional elections. In response, Ethiopian government troops arrived in the north, aided by neighboring Eritrea. Fighting here has led to accusations that the government and Eritrean troops are committing human rights abuses against civilians. After months of denials, Ethiopia's prime minister has admitted troops from neighboring Eritrea have entered Tigray.
The reason they show their presence is because they have a national security concern. We also informed the Eritrean government they are being accused of wrongdoings, looting, and other things. The Eritrean government strongly denounced these allegations and said it will take strong measures on any of its soldiers who are found guilty of these accusations.
You guys heard that, right? You heard what my ear heard. That the Ethiopian coward Mashrafad, who's a little chicken, who only knows how to murder children, said that Eritrean troops were in Tigray to defend their safety and security, and that now they have been informed that they're committing genocide, and that the Eritrean government is going to take action. I don't have a question. I want you guys to say something.
No, listen. Let me ask you one thing. When have you ever seen a foreign sovereign leader go to one country to see their military bases, inspect their air forces, and talk to the generals of that nation? When have you seen a leader do that? Because Abiy Ahmed went to Sawa to see what Sawa looks like and greeted the generals and all that stuff. Isaias Afwerki has went to the Air Force Base of Ethiopia to see what the Air Force Base is capable of doing. This is not a game. This is not a game that you can just play. This is not Nintendo. This is real life that we're talking about. These people are just, this is a joke. 1 minute he said Eritrean troops are not in Tigray. And he went around and he said Eritrean troops are in Tigray for national security purposes. And then later on he said they're going to move out. Just making up things. The thing is, these two are collaborating together to cause havoc in both regions. When I say both regions, I mean Ethiopia and Eritrea, okay? Both regions. Because Isaias Afwerki has gotten a full control of Eritrea, now he's advancing to have more control of how Ethiopia functions. That is not working out too well right now. It's not working out too well because people are being killed. OLA is moving in. TDF is handling military operations in Tigray, and they're drying thin. Sudan is moving in from the west, took most of the land that they claim to be theirs. There is ethnic violence between the Somalis and the Afar, ethnic violence between Benshangul, Amhara, and Oromia. You just have a war everywhere that's happening in this country, and Eritrean troops cannot rescue every single one of these wars. They just can't. It's not going to happen. So what would happen next? Eritrean troops have to make a decision to say, look, do I save my life or do I end up becoming dead for other people's purpose? Honestly, I don't even care about any of the other kids, the other soldiers, because those people, they signed up to be in the military. Eritrean soldiers, they didn't sign up to be in the military. They were forced to be in the military. So anyone that is forced to be in the military has the option of saying, you know what, man, this is not for me. I'm out of here. And either go to Sudan or give your hands up and let TDF take you in, just like the 16-year-old that we've seen. Just give yourself up, come in, sit down, and then, put in a safe place. Because the thing is, like, personally, I don't want to see Tigray-speaking people dying for no reason. Tigray-speaking people. The others decided to be in the military. They all Ethiopian troops are military because they decided to be in the army. Okay? And if those people get the consequences of what they signed up for, well, that is part of what war is. You know what I'm saying? Captain, you signed up to be in the US Army. Whatever division that you were in, you signed up for it. You're ready to face any consequences that come your way for signing up for that service. It's the same thing. Ethiopian troops all signed up to be in the military, whether it's for money or they're doing it for whatever rights that gives them, hierarchy, whatever. It doesn't matter. They signed up for it. These troops, if every single one of them get wiped out in Tigray or in Oromia or in any other places, then that is something they signed up for. But the Eritrean troops, to me, is that, one, they're going to a sovereign nation outside of their jurisdiction, their home. So they're not even defending home. Two, they didn't sign up to be in the military. They were drafted. You were drafted to be in the military, right? Three, they're being instructed to loot, destroy, mass killing, and all of that. And if they don't follow and obey those rules, and a lot of them actually do want to commit those crimes because it's engraved in their head to hate any Tigrayans because they view them as someone that was like their enemy. They were taught since they were little kids to think that Tigrayans were their enemy. So we can't make excuses for many of the troops that are causing atrocities in Tigray. But at the same time, they were drafted to go to Sawa. They were drafted to go through the training. They didn't choose to go to Sawa. No one in Eritrea chooses to go to Sawa. They actually are forced to go to Sawa. So the message that I want to send is the Eritreans. Like, look, if you're a family member that lives outside of Eritrea in Europe or America, you need to be able to call your family member, tell them like, hey man, I don't want you to be in this war. I don't want you to be involved in this. Flee, leave, go home, or not go home, but go to Sudan, go somewhere else and get away from this war. Because if you don't get killed in Tigray, you're going to get killed in Oromia. If you don't get killed in Oromia, you're going to get killed in Amhara. If you don't get killed in Amhara, you're going to get killed in Afar. That's not the case. You're going to get killed in Somali region of Ethiopia. Either way, you're going to get killed somewhere. Because eventually, you don't have enough manpower to be able to carry out all these missions across Ethiopia and do the dirty work of Abiy Ahmed. And that is what Abiy Ahmed is doing. He's using Eritrean troops. He's paying Isaias Afwerki to use Eritrean troops to do the dirty work within Ethiopia. And this should not be acceptable to any Eritrean as a human being. Like, you're losing your family members, you're losing your citizens, you're losing your countrymen. For what? Nothing. Now, when we go back to Ethiopia, Ethiopian troops are coming in without understanding what they're coming in for. Some of them that are captured, the POWs, are saying, we were told that we were going to be enforcing the law. There were some criminals roaming around, so we're here to capture them. The only legally elected officials of Ethiopia are TPLF. No other entity is legally elected right now because they passed their 5-year mandate. So no other human being, no other ethnic group or anyone in Ethiopia, within Ethiopia right now as we know it, should be able to call anybody illegal, especially the TPLF, because they were elected. There was an election that happened in September, and then during that election, TPLF was elected to lead Tigray. That is the legal. Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry. Finish up, and then I'm gonna. You pointed earlier about how the Oromo strength is coming through the TDF, and this is kind of funny clip, but it's 25 seconds. I want to show you because I want you to summarize it before we go to Dawit for LA protests. I got some motorcycle videos I want to show, but I'm gonna have you summarize real quick.
Sure. Yeah. So what I was trying to say is, when it comes to East Africa, the Somali president. So there's a clique of the Somali president, Ethiopian prime minister, and Eritrean president. All three of them, Cesar Forki, Farmajo, and Abiy Ahmed. All three of them are the clique of group of people who, one, either they have passed their mandate or they have never been elected by the people to be the leaders. So all these three people that are acting like they're actually leaders, they're not really leaders. They're dictators. That's all they are. And for us, we have to be able to split that off and say, who are we supporting? The elected folks or the non-elected folks? And then we should be able to say, what is the cause of this issue? What's causing what's happening to our people? Because what's happening in Tigray is the worst of all of it. It's the worst of it all. Because it's an actual genocide where everybody is killing. Amhara militias, special forces, Ethiopian forces, Eritrean forces are all committing crimes in Tigray. A small region at that. But in Oromia it's happening. In Amhara is happening. In Benshangul is happening. In Somalia and Afar regions are happening. So there's not really any state where it's peaceful, where things are okay. And in Eritrea has been happening for the last 20 years. Very easily it's been happening for the last 20 years. Because people have been missing, being killed, rich people being killed, poor people have been killed, or they've been thrown in containers as prisoners. So whatever these two are doing, they're not doing it for the best interest of the people. They're not really looking out for their people, right? And so what we need to be doing, us, is utilize our resources that we have here to make sure that the world knows that these two evil men, at least the two evil men, face the ICC and they end up serving time for the crimes that they've committed to their people and to the Horn of Africa in general. That's what I wanted to say. But go ahead and play your clip, unless Captain has something to say.
So before Captain jumps in, I'm going to show you guys 25-second clip. I want you guys to watch it. This is enactment. TDF, as you can see, with the yellow and red, observing what's going to happen with the Amhara, and when the Oromo comes, what happens? They get destroyed. So anyway, there we go.
ከዛ አማራ መጣ ወደ ቀኝ ገባ ኦሮሞ መጣ ጨረሳቸው
So anyway, Dawit, so they were announcing, just in case, because in case if you don't pick up on the Amharic, it's a clip that it's got a sense of humor. They're talking. Debrecen is like sitting watching, and he said the Amhara comes and gets in the middle, and then the Oromo comes. There's Oromo, and then that's a big truck coming in, destroys it. So that's kind of what to Dennis' point earlier. But hey, we got a lot to cover. I apologize. So here's the deal, Dawit. I actually want you to quickly jump on LA Team Freedom. What's going on? What are we doing, bro? You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Team Freedom. We have a Salamal selfie. No to genocide. If you notice, we have all the flags present. That's to let everybody know. What I don't like seeing is when you have 1,000 Tigrayan flags and one Eritrean flag. That's not a good signal. Or a good sign. What we need to show is unity. I want to see all flags there: American flags, Eritrean flags, Tigrayan flags, whatever. We just need to let the world know we're united. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have motorcycle people that are American riding their motorcycles. I'll be, a couple people will be in there with them. The thing is, we initially wanted 700 of them, but which there's thousands that are willing to support because they are against genocide in Tigray. But I think we chopped it down to like 350, 400 of them, which is good. And then we have the car. The cars will be trailing, and then later on we'll be on foot. The starting point of the Salamal selfie is going to be at 5800 West Sunset Boulevard. If you guys see it on the screen, Los Angeles, California, 90028. Be there or be square. This is probably going to be just as big as New York, if not bigger. We already just the support element of this, the people that are supporting this, Mike, Danny, all of us already in the 1,000 mark, just with the support element of family members. I'm not even talking about the guests. So this is going to be epic. There's going to be we've invited every media, Habesha media. We've invited Satene. We invited Tigray Media House. We invited Temesgen Kasai. We invited Emmanuel Yasu, like all these people. Lula, you know what I mean? So this is going to be epic. Don't miss out. And the thing is, this Salamal selfie is to let the world know we're going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger until we see action. When I say action, I don't need independent investigations. I don't need requests for independent investigations. I need it to happen. I don't want the Western world to ask for permission for independent investigations, because had that been in any other Tzada country, there wouldn't be no request for independent investigations. You know what would happen? They'd go in there and seize the place. That's what would happen. So why is it that the Horn game, oh no, it takes half a year to get an investigation going? How many people come out to Lom before they actually do the investigation, before people actually end up in the ICC? You know what I mean? International Criminal Court. What does it take? The Suitishigur like is really, really disturbing. Is really, it bothers me. But what's going to happen is we're all going to link up. We're all going to be there. We're going to have security. We're going to have police. We're going to have majority ex-military. We've thought this out methodically for medical staff in case somebody passes out or requires water, ambulances. We got it methodically thought out. And you know what? I invite every one of you to dig deep and say, let's be part of this history. Let's make history together. Let's show the world, wait a minute. How's Abiy Ahmed attacking Tigray? How's Isaias Afwerki attacking Tigray collectively? And you got all the diasporas in the United States and Europe, because there's some European Team Freedom that want to do it the same day, collectively marching for unity and striving for no genocide. How's this happening? When in the Horn, it's not the same picture we see outside the Horn. Is it a matter of intellect? Well, then perhaps it's a matter of dictatorship. So that kind of clarifies everything for them. What I wanted to caveat on though was what our brother was speaking on, Danny Denver. If I could jump on that for a second. He's got a point. I don't know if you guys know this. Again, of Sawa, there was 350 or 375 Abiy soldiers training in Sawa, and then there was a missile shot, or they killed them or destroyed them or whatever they did to them. All right, that was a message to all the opposition groups. Hey, this confederation, it's not happening. They actually attacked Sawa. Eritreans attacked Sawa just to show that they didn't like Abiy Ahmed soldiers training in Sawa. To me, that's a message sent to the world to let them know, hey, no, we don't want confederation. That's the first thing. The second thing is, in Eritrea, the people can't escape that easy because there's a shoot to kill policy. If you try to escape from Sawa or Eritrea, it's a shoot to kill policy. You have to understand this. Period. There's no questions about that. That's the way it works. And then the third thing is the invasion. Abiy Ahmed said, yes, there's I think there's Eritrean troops in Tigray. Come on, brother. We already knew that. Gin, you're making it seem like you didn't invite them. If you didn't invite Eritrean troops to Tigray, then your country has just been invaded by a foreign army. That's how the law works. That's how military works. Your country just got invaded by a foreign army, and you didn't take up arms against that foreign army. Otherwise, they were invited there. So the international community is not dumb. They know, because if I go into your country with guns and I'm killing your people, your citizens, then I've just invaded your country. How come nobody's speaking about that? If you want to talk about military law and politics, that's how that works. And then as far as Ethiopia goes, everybody keeps saying, oh, these two idiots are going to destabilize Ethiopia. No, my brothers and sisters, Ethiopia is destabilized. There is no gonna. You're talking about Oromio standing up. You're talking, and the crazy thing is TDF is recruiting Eritreans. They're recruiting Oromians. They're recruiting all kinds. They're getting stronger and stronger. So yeah, Ethiopia is already destabilized, and Abiy Ahmed is begging the Arabs and Saadus, Haguzuni, Watader Habuni, Shugut Habuni, Utaquna, and they're saying no. He's depleted everything. He's billions in Kusta, and he owes billions for this war because Saudi Talakihu, Kikalas, and we've not seen anything change. We have not seen him win. We've not seen anyone win. All he's doing is killing Eritreans and Ethiopians. That's all that's happening. Nothing has changed since all this started. Just people dying. That's it. So, Abiy Ahmed, you're not looking really, really good at this moment. And Isaias Afwerki, no one cares what you think because you've been doing this for 60 years since you've been sent by Haile Selassie. Dictatorship is a sport and art for these people, and it's sad because at the expense of who? At the expense of Eritreans and Tigrayans. Amharas, there are some good Amharas too, but the problem is the ones that are elitists. They have that imperialistic ideology, that one big Ethiopia with one big Amhara language. That's for the birds. You could kill that dream. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? No, it's not. What's going to happen is Eritrea will remain Eritrea one way or another. And if they sell us to Ethiopia, which he did already, there will be another civil war because the people are not happy that they're being sold to the Derg. Period.
I heard old dog is about to die though, so I think we are. Danny mentioned earlier that the only elected leader in that part of the region actually is Debrazia, who was elected by the people in Tigray. But do you guys know Abiy Ahmed actually has never been elected in Ethiopia? He was actually an interim prime minister from April 2018 until last year, where he knew that he had no chance of winning, which is why he started obviously arresting even the Oromo freedom fighters, the Oromo politicians, Amhara politicians, anyone that he knew that was going to oppose him. But I'm going to quickly, these videos that I was showing you guys, it's very important to add to what you were talking about, Captain. So we have LAPD, we have the California Highway Patrol. Possibly we're going to get some help from some retired FBI agents. And then we're going to have civilian coordinated safety crowd control team to work together collectively. We expect about 370 motorcycle riders, Americans. I want to just mention that we are pleased to have many Americans, white, black, Mexicans, and whatnot, and of course Eritreans and Tagaru in the motorcycles. So we're looking at 370 confirmed, probably get to 400. So these are some of the people that have given us a permission to share their photos, who will be our participant in the protest. So I just want to quickly show that our fellow Wadamni, who's been helping us to coordinate this very well. So he sent those to me earlier today. has given me a permission to share them with you guys. These are the kind of how we're going to do the motorcycle. I think it's 25 to 30 group, and then we're going to have cars in between. So it's going to be pretty awesome. Sorry. I think I have a few clips that I want to, if I can find it there real quickly. We had a message. So this is the quick clip that also has been authorized for us to use this video. These are some of the writers that are giving us permission again to show their faces. We had a message. This gentleman is appreciated.
We'll see you next weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. We'll see you next weekend.
Thank you.
You guys can hear him?
Thank you for inviting us. We'll see you next weekend.
Thank you.
So that was about a couple hours ago. That was recorded, and he's appreciating him, saying thank you for inviting us, obviously. So we're excited. Danny, I want to give you an opportunity because often dictators have successfully divided people to stay in power. What we're doing, of course, the young Tagaro and the young Eritreans working with, of course, our older brothers and sisters, parents, and what have you, together to come together. What message are we looking to send to the world, particularly to Isaias and to Abi?
Yeah. So the main thing here is that any protest that you see across the country, across the world, is primarily to stand for the people. The main thing here is the people. People are suffering, going through atrocities, being raped, looted, mass murdered, and all horrific deeds are happening to people. So because of that, all the protests that you will see in any city across the world, it's done to stand for the people. Another thing is that since November 4th, telecommunication blackout has been implemented. There's been no power, no banking, and other atrocities, at least from the standpoint of the people not having the ability to help themselves. You can have money in the bank, but you can't access it. Now you can't buy things that you need for your family. So a lot of bad things are happening to the people that are on the ground. So all these protests that you see are being done to be the voice of those that are being silenced. They're not voiceless, they're silenced. So that's one way of seeing what's happening, right? Second thing is we want to stand for humanity, nothing else. Humanity. No political affiliations, no nothing else, but humanity. Now, when you have dictators that are coming in from both directions, 3 directions, 4 directions, then you start to see that they're doing this to exterminate the people. They're not here because they have political differences with, TPLF or the regional government, but they're doing it just so that they can exterminate the people. They can weaken the people to the point that those people can't stand up and say, you know what, I don't accept what you're doing to us. So that can't happen. A democratic nation would mean that people would be allowed to question when they see their governments are failing them. At this point, you can't do that because the government is working very, very hard to make sure that you don't get to even stand up to say, I have concerns. So whenever there's a protest in your city, make sure you show up to the protest. Whenever there's a protest across the country, make sure you show up. Make sure you show up with your flag. Make sure you show up with your signs. Make sure you show solidarity. Make sure you come in and say, you know what I see is wrong. This is wrong. We should not accept this. That's 1. 2, make sure you call your representatives, tell them your concerns so that they can be the voice for the people that are oppressed. Call them, tell them, like, what these governments are doing is not right. People are dying for no reasons, for no fault of their own. And then the third thing is that you can get behind the Twitter campaigns or other campaigns that are being put together, the petitions. Make sure you sign the petitions. Like, for example, not today, but yesterday, we had a Twitter campaign that focused on helping the people of Kunama and the people of Irob. These are 2 ethnic groups that live on both sides of the river. The Irobs are on the Tigray side, and then the Sahel is on the other side. They're different, but they kind of share a similar background. They speak the same Sahel language. The Kunamas are on both sides, the Tigray side and the Eritrean side. But these are small minorities that are being inflicted. They're being targeted, and they face extermination. You know, they're very small in numbers. So like it's easy for governments to wipe them out. So we had a campaign that's there. So this campaign, if you're an Eritrean person that values the Kunamas, you would understand that. You're an Eritrean person that values the Sahels, you would understand this. And so we would want that there's a solidarity from the Eritrean side to make sure that these people are being protected. They're indigenous people that have cultural, historical ties to the land, and they bring significant historical background to the region, and they should be protected. So when these things happen, when these campaigns are put together in front, campaigns against genocide, campaigns against starvation being used as a weapon of war, or rape being used as a weapon of war, we need to speak up and say this is wrong. We should not allow this to happen in the 21st century. And we would want solidarity to happen from our Eritrean brothers and sisters, Hara brothers and sisters, Oromos, and anybody else in East Africa, and any other allies across the world. For this to happen, I would hope that we work together and make sure that we can alleviate the burden from the people by just being the voice. So and that's what I wanted to say. But thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak here.
Absolutely. So, Captain, if you can briefly kind of cap it up about the protest and then what we're looking forward, and I'm sure we're going to try to talk about it one more time before next Saturday, but I know we have a long night, so I want to cap it up real quick. And if you want to add Tigrinya with it, it'll be nice. We're going to give Danny another minute to finish it up, and then we're going to end it.
All right. Thank you. Zolan, peace. Yes, United States eventually will be getting involved if they haven't already. That's because President Biden is against genocide and atrocities. But when you're dealing with the geopolitical level, there's certain ways you got to move. You can't hinder a country's history, but you can stop genocide. You know what I mean? The people can elect for things to happen, so they got to move carefully. All right. As far as the Salam al-Selfie goes, we're all very excited. I'm going to be in some room controlling all the gadgets and cameras for the whole world to see. So I'm not going to be accessible on ground. I'll be in some room house working all this. And if I'm there, you'd never know anyways. With that being said, we have a very strong Tigrayan community in LA. And we have a strong Eritrean community in LA that's working together collectively to push the Salam al-Selfie, and it's going to be epic. When I say epic, this is going to be one of a kind, historical. I mean, you're not going to see anything like this. It's going to be beautiful. I will say this though: why did we choose Los Angeles? We chose Los Angeles because Los Angeles is a highly Higdef city. There's a lot of Higdef, just like DC in Los Angeles, and I've been seeing a lot of nasty things happening in the demonstrations. We're prepared for all that. I'm not saying come and get it if you want it. I'm just saying I wouldn't advise doing that to our Salam al-Selfie in Los Angeles because it might not go well for people trying to disrupt it. And I'm not threatening no one. I'm just letting you know there's going to be 400 motorcycle riders as is, ex-military, ex-police. Let's just deal with that. And then I'm not talking, there's additional cops. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So it's going to be a peaceful march, and it's going to be for peace. It's going to be for unity, and it's going to be to say no to genocide, because we should all as humans be saying no to genocide, and we should all be speaking out for, like our brother said, not the voiceless, but the silenced. And you know what? Eritrean refugees, yes, it's time we speak for you too, because you know what? It's not right what's happening to you. You were safe in Tigray. That's the sad thing about it. Until Abiy Ahmed got involved, and now you're given back to a dictator, abducted. So Abiy Ahmed, I hold you accountable for that as well. You are Ansar Eritrea, enemy of Eritrea, and you are also Isaias's kurkur. You're his little do boy. You do what he tells you to do. You took dictatorship 101. And because of you, we're having to do demonstrations because you guys think it's fun to kill innocent people. And we, the people of Eritrea, the real people of Eritrea, not all the hooked up zombies trying to prove their Eritreanism. I'm talking about Eritreans that were born from Jaganus. Not no fake little Eritrean with a little Jamaican flag waving it, trying to prove he's more Eritrean than the next man. I'm talking about real Eritreans, proud Eritreans, right? From good families. We stand with Hizbi Tigray, and we stand against the atrocities, and we stand against the genocide, and we're not going to have it. So when Tagarus get out there and speak against that, Eritreans are going to stand with them to speak against that, because that makes me human. That makes me Team Freedom. And I keep telling y'all, Team Freedom, I might be Eritrean, but Team Freedom consists of Eritreans and Tagarus. Take that to the bank with you. I love you. Thank you for the support. I hope to see you all. Much love.
Thank you, Captain. So I think you forgot one thing. In addition to the large community of Eritreans or Hagdef that are now led that we're going to show, not show off, but show them our unity, there's also what they call them Niftam. I'm going to let Danny describe what that really means. So we're going to show them too.
Yeah,
we just call them Adgi, but
yeah, no, it's very simple. They're the drug 2.0s, the little Ethiopia folks, the people who are supporters of genocide, who pump money from the West to help people commit atrocities in places that they don't have to worry about it because it doesn't impact their families. Their families are well off. They're in Addis Ababa. They're in good places that it doesn't get impacted. But the impact, thing about it is, a war can start in one place, but a war does not end in that same place. A war ends. You never know where it ends. And Tagalai Abraha said that. And he's right. A war started in Tigray, but the war didn't end in Tigray. The war now is across the country in Ethiopia. And we don't even know where it's going to end. So for the people that are fighting, the freedom fighters, the actual fighters, the ones that are like really committing to this, continue to fight. Don't stop. Don't let the distractions, these genocide supporters, deter you from what you need to be doing. You know, go out there with your signs, be proud of what you stand for. There's a greater honor in standing for what you believe in, because you don't want to be a coward that stood on the sideline and waited for the things to go away, because it doesn't go away. We've been fighting for the last 5 months, but we also been fighting for the last, 3, 4, 5 years, because we saw things coming in a way that they would hurt us. You know what I'm saying? It's not 3 years, it's not 4 years, it's not 5 years. Meaning we saw our families being displaced from their homes, from Gondar and Oromia. We saw our families having to lose everything they worked for in their whole lives, because people thought, because they're Tigrayans, that they need to be vacated and they need to be bounced out. These kind of things happen to people, but when you wage war, then that kind of changes the whole narrative of things. I just salute everyone that's working hard. I want everyone that's working hard to continue working, because don't sleep until these two dictators are out of their helms. We cannot stop. Please do not stop. We don't end here. We will continue to fight until these two dictators are wiped out and they get on a plane, bounce, or they get killed in Asmara and Addis Ababa. Because if they don't, we'll continue to suffer, and the suffering may never end. And that's what I wanted to say. كلكم حواتنا حاتنا زلكم أب كل عالم أب كل عالم زلكم زي كم قوم نجاركم رأيوا نقال سوزلنا قالسي نقال ليكونن نقال سوزلنا قالسي مريرن حيال نيو مسبون كن بأسينا عرفتنا زنور سبات وين كسرنا يوم استفعلي نجارات كوصل هخوليا جن قال سنسونا هنا قال سيكونن كابانا زوص كابانا لعل زخوان قالسي كاب نحنا منتنا كاب نحنا كاب نايب علنا نريو حسب زوص كأو زلع على أيو نحبرت السبنا نبيت السبنا نعدنا نمنتنا نجورس لزخوانه حدا سب ويم حدا منجستي ويم زخوانه سيلو أنا كوكوا صار كأي خنا جرا كأي خمسة خنا برا كأي الناس نقرنا سب إيشنا زين قبالو أيو أين قبالان ما نمنا أنا ينقرنا كم يجينا هم نبر نزقونا دما إيشنا ينقبالان وصيو دليل تهجبر بعنا so أزلهم معدي تقالسو مكلاس يو قالس يو موت حنتك زي ترحيا كلتك زي تموتن حنتك زي هتموت that's it so حنتك زي نموت سوات جن تاريخ سريعنا نموت تاريخ سريعنا أفتنا هنا الصحف بشومنا الصحف نجر تاريخ الصحف بشومنا كصحف تلو كاريسة كسمع تلو تم جعلنا كل يوم كم زي جرام نعنا كم زي زبالة نابرخ نبر جرام لازم يقولوا قال يقرفوا نحنا جعلنا نذكرهم ما تاريخ صريح مثل زغال يوم بر سبعة كوينهم مثل النويرهم أب قاسوا ما زغال من قدموا يتم مثل زغال يكون جن تاريخ صريح من مويتهم أب history book تستعفي نعم تاريخ زي بنا إرترا يكون بنا تجرا يكون تستعفي بر كم درج زبالة زحية لما نقصت أين ورا كم درجي زحية لما نقصت أين ورا جن درجة هذا مسيسو كاو دك درج ما مسيهم حزي ما يسوم ناي درج زنا أسرع صرح مكر لهم ناي درج مكر زلود ما دك درجي كم ناي مجمرة درجي نسومن كقبارية قبرت له تاريخ الصحف منيو تاريخ صرح منيو نحن دي ناس ويس نخلي سمنا نشون وين نقرفوا زلنا so أزي وانا خلنا تقول نقبانا يو درجي زبحال ناي درجة تحساس وازلو وصيلو كف زخون حماس زرقي أزي تحساس وازلو زبخ زعسوه زرقي زخلو زي ناي درجي زنية نقرات كله نطفأ له جزء حزنيو كأون ده حرمان مننتنا أخبرنا نبر جزءون حزيو ما ننسى موتيو كم زي جوارو كم زي كونو كم زي أتو بازي وصو بازي أتو زلنا ما نكل يولن إحنا بعلنا خن محاضر نخل حبرات السبينة سلطونات حبرات السبينة ما نمزقوا نجر كنا قرنا زقن سوي كنا نا موزعتكم زلقكم علم زلقكم سفر عليكم تجارون إرتراويان إزي أتبعكم حسولو إرترا تقول يا زلا تجراي كمت أنا لا تقول يا زلا because كسلست أربعة بقولني كورونا عتنا مصي بقولني أم زلوا كن at the end of the day أنا تجرينا تزارع ب7 تجرينا زارع بحرة السب زلوا بإرتران بعنقان من نتنا بنابرنا كل مننا حرينا من قصة يزقورنا زلوا وتحدر يزقورنا زلوا تأبصا وصلت أنا مصي يزقورنا زلوا بل حرة السب إرتران مصي يزقورنا إلا يعني فلتن أرانا ينون نتسوون كم زجران حزلون كاب أمهارا جني مصر يام زلوا فانو يبالو قلي يبالو مليشة يبالو سبيشال فورس يبالو قلي يبالو مصر يام زلوا نمنتاي نحنا مريت سنزل اليوم نحنا يلولنا نحنا حرت سبنا نحنا منتنا يلولنا سوم زلولين تايو نحنا مريت نحنا بوتا نحنا تراو بوتا من زلولي عسل مسوا كالي زلوليو نمنتايو نوعلم نتقوم ميلام ينبر نتحرت سب قريب حاسيوم ليكون so نقحو عاشوا تخونوا تعيشوا حراريكم تعيشوكم زلكم مسلكم مسلم درجاوين بحاقينكمس تسليفكمس قم نقرتهم سي مسلكم نسهم كم زيا تعريفون يريخم حنت تعريفا 5 cents ايريخم نجزياو جن نتزلو طقمي روحو قولو جن مساعدكم كم زي يسعسعوا يبلوا افتنا ديمونستريشن نوعلو نفت سلمان سلفي أحسن ما سلفون ما نأخذكم إثيوبيا نقولوا نحن أخوم يومزلهم زلوا عاش قينكم كنسقاتكم إيش نقولكم بانديركم حسكم وياكم دأمبر كم زي مسوسعوا بتعمل حزن نسدرجس كم زي أكل مجارس بتعمل حفريو عب إيرترا تاريخهم بتعمل حفريزي كم زي مقارنة معي أنا تقرأيه تقرأ زعوقية إيرتراوين كم زي تكون لكم كم زي تكون يقولكم لازم نجرحهم جن نسوق زي تلقى بتعمل حفريو ولا لا إيرتراوي تكون نمبر يحفر بتعمل so كاوزي هنا نشتي جلس كنبل نحبرت سبنا كنقوم سرحنا وين زلينا هنقبر يزت حالف تعمل زمسجن مايك كابتن thank you عاوز زنورنا يتحسسوانا بزاروان I felt good I salute you my brother you've served multiple countries, not just the U.S. You've served your nation well. You served your people. You've stood up for what's right, and there is a greater honor in that. So I want to give you that, Mike. Thank you for hosting this and asking the questions that you've asked, and conducting the conversation. Hopefully, we will come back to this conversation in some time where the conditions are different. I would love to just sit here and say, what we talked about, a couple months ago is the reality now. And hopefully that's the reality that we will face in the future. But thank you guys, both of you.
That's unless TDF finishes the job before next Saturday. I'm hoping that we're gonna do one more time, shorter though, promise you, before Saturday. We're gonna figure out an evening. Hopefully that would work out. If not, man, I'm so proud that the ability for us to be bilingual, to be able to speak in Tigrinya, English. Hey, shukran Sudan. Tagaru, ስራሕኩም ኣይትረስዑ ኤርትራውያን ንሕና ኢሎም መፂኦም ምሳና ንዑን ስርሑልና ተለው ንሰርሕና ብሓደ ኢልና ቲም ፍሪዶም እናበለ ያው ዳዊት ካብተን ኤርትራ ካብ መጀመርያታት ሒዙ መስመሮ ይስሓተን ፀኒሑ ከድንቕ ኣይኮነን ንዕዘለኩም ዘለኹ ኣብ ዓለም ሙሉእ ዘለኹም ኤርትራውያን እናተጋሩ ትግርኛ ብደንብ ትዛረቡ ገልገለኹም ከዓ ገጽኩም ከይርአ ትዊት ሽምኩም ከይርአ ተደብቕኩም ዘለኹም በተለይ ተጋሩና ኤርትራውያን ትግርኛ ትዛረቡ ትግራይ ተሸኒፋ እያ ኤርትራ ግን ተስፋ ሲኢና እያልኩም ተስፋ ዝቆረጽኩም ሞራልኩም ደካማት ኣይትኾኑ እዚ ትግርኛ ዝዛረብ ደካም ሞራል የውልን ትግራዋይ ዛዕባ ትግራዋይ ክዛረብ ጽረቢለ ማንም ነፍስ ወከፍ ትግራዋይ ቀይሕና ብጫ ቀለም ናይ ባንዴራና ደምና ከርስና እውን ቀይሕ እዩ ትግራይ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ንዝፈጠሮ እግዚአብሔር ንዝፈጠሮ ጌታ ንዝፈጠሮ አላህ እስላምና ክርስቲያን ብሓደ ኮይና ጎን ዘለና ይሃገር ንፈጣሪ ዝንበርክኽ እምበር ንጸላኢ ይንበርክኽን እዩ ማንም ትግራዋይ እዚ ከይትስሕትዎ ደኒ ዝበሎ ሪፒት ኣይገብሮን እየ ካብተን ደኒ ዘይበለን ግን ኣነ ዝሓውሰለን እዚ እያ ሓደ ብምንም ተኣምር ብሽሓታት መፅዮም بمئة شحنات زغصر مصيم فقدوا نزبن ني امران مقلب يوم كانوا تعرفوا خسارنا حزبنا تغوداي صريات لكن سيحواتنا عدتاتنا تدفرا نسي زحزلنا نسي خسارنا داوي زول حاونا عنتو كابتن اعتراض ولو مان كات تسرق خاف تግራይ ኢሳያስ شرع اسرو شرو سريقو وردتيو እዚ ህዝቢ ኤርትራ ይድግፎን እዩ ማንካና ድስቲ ቀምሽ አረጊት ቀምሽ ካብ ሰብሕ ዲካ ናብ ኤርትራ ሙሳድ እዚ ሕፍረት እዩ ውርደት ይብስሩ ህዝቢ ኤርትራ እዚ ይድግፎን እዩ ብምንም ተኣምር ሕግደፋውያን ወራሪ ሓይል ናይ ሻዕብያ ናብ ትግራይ መፅኦም ግን ንህዝቢ ትግራይ ሞራሉ ክሰብሩ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ንዘለዓለም ምስ ኤርትራ ህዝቢ ተባይሱ ንክነብርና أنا أرجيت كلب خوينه أرسلت أنا خنا بريل اللي خسيدوا علامة يقول لهم اليوم تقرأي مسئلة ما تهوي مسؤولنا يفلتوني يدها أخوي يرجس يمزل له بي تي دي إف نحناها أو عدد له تي دي إف أب دايسبرا زنينا تي دي إف تجارو دايسبرا فورسي نادو صانايو زينا زين حفر له خداونتنا خمزيو ملكنا خمزيو خورئنا تخابرنا تجارو مس ኤርትራውያን ሕዋትና ጎን ኮይና ምሳና ምሳኹም ኢና ስለዝውልና ዘለው ናይ ዕለት 17 ሰላማዊ ሰልፊ ኦልሬዲ ዳዊት ገሊጽዎ እዩ ካብ ኤርትራ ገሊጽዎ እዩ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ዘለኹም ተጋሩ ብግፍዒ በተለይ በአዲስ አበባ ዘለኹም ካብ 70,000 ንላዕሊ ተኣሲርኩም ዘለኹም ተረፍኩም ብምኢታት ሽሕ ትቁፀሩ ናተሰቃይኩም ዘለኹም ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ሙሉእ ክወግሕ ይፅባሕ نفتام أبي أحمد بوليتيكا تمهار يكونن 110 مليون هيز لو هاجر أما حدر توهيل توهاو تخبري خزاز جبوز نورا حزن قف عصر حزن لقد صبحناكو أبروس وتورك يا أبروس مسودة أوتو ኣብ ኣስመራ ኸይድና ኣብ መቐለ ኸይድና ለባማት ኤርትራውያን ለባማ ተጋሩ ብሓደ ኮይና ይህን ምሂን ናበልና ሻሂ ቡና ንሰትየሉ ክንዕለሉ ኢና ሃገርና ካብቲ ዝነበረ ዝበለፀ ጌርና ክንምልሶ ኢና ማንም ብህዝቢ ትግራይ ኣብ ኢዱ ደም ዝሓዘ ሓፂቡ ክነብር እየ ዝብል ናይ ሕግደፋውያን ወታደር ናይ ኣምሓራ ምልሻ ኣምሓራ ፋና ማንም ዝኾነ ሰብ ግን ኣይነብርን እዩ ከምኡ ግፍዕ ዝሰራሕኩም ኣብ ዘለኹም ቦታ ፅባሕ ንግሆ ትጥየቀሉ ሕጊ ኣለ እዩ ሕጊ ተዘይኮይኑም ብቲዲኤፍ ዳያስፖራ ዘለና ናብ ዓዲ ዘለውን መንነትኩም ብደርጊ እውን ሃዲሞም እስካብ ወፃእ ዝኸዱ ነይሮም እዮም ብሕጊ እናተሓነቑ ብክሳዶም እዮም ተጠሊፎም እስሩ የተማትዮም ጉድጓድ ኣትዮምና እዚ ናበልኩ ተስፋይ ንቁረፅ ኣየኹም ኣየና መጀመርታ ከምዚ ጌርና ዓብይ ሰላም ማስነ ዘዘጋጅዎ ዘለና ኤርትራውያን ተጋሩ ብሓደ ኮይና መስመርና ሓደ ይኹን ልብና ሓደ ይኹን ዝሓደፈ ይኣክል ሕዚ ግን ኤርትራውያን ተገፍዑ ትግራይ ዝነበሩ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ግን በጠቃላይ ከዓ ዝኩሉ በፅሒዎ ዘሎ ንዚ መስተኻኻል ብሓደ ንሕና ዋላ ሂወትና እንድሕር ንምተይና እስካብ ክንመውት ኢና ኢልና ዝወሰና ስለ ዘለና የምናልባት ካፕትን ኤርትራ ብትግርኛ ስለ ዘይተዛረብካ ሕፅረ ቢልካ ትግርኛ ንትብል you have the floor you'll be closing the statement and we'll be done
thank you يغني هواي يهواتي كبرات يهواتي تجاروز in Eritrean Eritreawi one thing was خلص is you know usually بزح تري لهم تجاروز نتي سلامة self يمرحوا خمتات you know يأكبوا this time انتاجري إن Eritreawi نتي سلامة self أكيبوا إن كلهم تجاري هواتي حجزين إن حليهم سكاكن ده عابي نجار كان سرحنا خير this is the uniqueness of the situation مش and كلهم حواتي بعد داني با مايك الله بزحات ماتيوم مسهالنا team freedom مسهالنا سلي النات راح نزارب زلنا سخاتكم أبو زلهم جين بتعمي نفوتوكم هنا تحجزنا ياهم نمزجنوكم هنا so أتي علة عسران شوعتن إن حرمت يخون بجاهم متقبلكم الله يعدمكم اللهم يحواتي إذا عالم كنا مركخائنا إن حرب تجراينز بعلهم بتتويت جيركم بالسوشيال ميديا بورقة بخلوا جيركم نزع عالم مركخ مايهم لأن هاني مساهم كنا مركخائنا جين up to global level حجقناتينا United States ريوميوم ولا يوروب ولا جرماني أب كل زلو أمركخنا سجابس أو أزي لوس أنجلوس سلام سيلف مسودعنا هاني إن حسلست شح سب متيوم عسرت شح متيوم whatever the next step 1 million man march can قبلنا هم جم سلام تبز عادي زجبرو 1 million حزبي أكيبنا ن DC كينا سجام times يوم كوينم زبلونا we have to take action كم وسد على number is يوم كتفونا كم يجرمز همش تميت شح 1 million حزبي أكيبهم they must be serious حق إن جاريز نزيهم سجاب زبلو With that said, thank you.
Thank you. And then I say you're going to have last, but I apologize for those of you who are asking questions about the LA young Tagaru. I will be bringing more LA Tagaru this week to interview them. Yes, we'll be talking more about the protests, but most importantly, the amazing folks behind the scene that are making a lot of our protests successful. I will do everything I can throughout this week to bring them on. Maya, I'll push to bring her on. She's actually the one who started car protests in LA at the very beginning. That's becoming now all over the United States and other countries. And Abiy Ahmed Mashrafat in Addis Ababa, he's going to try to protest in cars. So congratulations to you, Maya, if you're hearing us. But I'm going to have you come to the floor and have a discussion as well. With that, I thank Danny, I thank Captain, and I apologize it was long, but we are ending the broadcast at this point. We are exactly 2 hours into it.